Hello, good evening everyone. So for tonight, I will be discussing about supplier sourcing. But first, I need to apologize in advance for the orientation of my camera. I do not have a built-in camera that is attached to my PC. I just have an external camera that I am using via my mobile phone. So it's situated on the right side. So for the most part, I will not be looking at the camera because I'm looking at the screen as I navigate through the PDF file of my presentation. That being said, let's get to the presentation. Now, after we have completed our product research, we presented it to our client and ensured that the client's set of criteria have been met accordingly. The next step is to find suitable suppliers, of course. So we are now at the stage of sourcing for suppliers. Simply put, it is the concept of searching for suppliers that would help us meet our business objectives. But bear in mind that it's not all about the price. Other considerations like if the supplier can meet our demands when it comes to customizing the product, if they can produce high quality items, etc., should also factor in our selection process or in our decision making process. Now, given the current pandemic situation, most likely the most convenient way is to find suppliers via the internet. But bear in mind that this is not the only route that we can take. If you can find suppliers locally by visiting trade expos, then by all means, you can try that out. And there are many websites that we can visit. For instance, we have Thomasnet. If you want to find suppliers that are primarily based in the US and Canada, we also have Global Sources, which is a Hong Kong-based online platform, and of course, Alibaba. Now, Alibaba is one of the largest e-commerce website hosting suppliers that are situated in China. And when it comes to the business model that we are studying, which is the FBA private label model, using Alibaba affords many advantages. For instance, more often than not, you can find a supplier of the product that you are eyeing. And because it hosts numerous suppliers, prices are really competitive. You can easily compare and shop for suppliers. And lastly, the suppliers in Alibaba have experience when it comes to dealing with Amazon FBA, private label sellers. As such, services like barcode printing are taken care of. They know what needs to be done. Now, in navigating the Alibaba website, you need to ensure that you are filtering the supplier types using the trade assurance and verified supplier filters. In the latest interface of Alibaba, we don't have any filter corresponding to the gold supplier. It's just an icon that is indicated attached beside the name of the supplier for each product listing. So what are these? Gold Supplier is a premium membership for suppliers on Alibaba.com. Members are afforded with comprehensive ways to promote their products. But bear in mind, for most part, established and long-time sellers in Alibaba often have this. So it doesn't hurt to look for suppliers with this status. Verified suppliers, simply put, are the ones that pass third-party inspections regarding the quality, production capabilities, and other safety standards. That is why it is important to choose verified suppliers to avoid experiencing fraud. And what about trade assurance? Trade assurance is a free service provided by Alibaba. Now, it covers you in the event of shipping or quality-related disputes. If you will escalate, for instance, a quality defect, for example, and you will win the dispute, you can recover your money. Now, for the fifth slide, it is all about MOQ. Now, when we talk about MOQ or the minimum order quantity, based on the term itself, it's the lowest number of units that can be ordered from a supplier, and it has advantages because of the concept of economies of scale. So, it is a concept in economics that explains the cost savings that companies can reap by spreading the production cost over a large quantity of goods. And what do we mean by that? To illustrate, for instance, bear in mind that companies typically have fixed and variable costs. Take the case of fixed costs, for instance, and specifically rent. So if the manufacturing company is paying rent that is fixed, the company will will still pay a specific amount to the landlord every month. So whether the manufacturing company produces 100 goods or 10,000 units of goods, the price of rent stays the same. As such, it is better to produce large quantity of goods. It also benefits the buyer, of course, because the suppliers have more legroom when it comes to lowering the price. Now, on the sixth slide, what are the differences among a manufacturer, a trading company, and a wholesaler? A manufacturer typically owns the factory, so they directly produce the goods. On the other hand, wholesalers and trading company are somehow similar, but they also have the similarities. They are similar in a sense because they do not directly produce the products. They are also sourcing from the manufacturers. But the similarity is that the traders do not own the products. They just help in facilitating the transfer of products, while wholesalers typically also buy and own the goods coming from the manufacturers. On the seventh slide, it's about the common Incoterms or shipping options that we typically encounter when dealing with suppliers. So, for instance, X works. It states that the sellers will deliver the product at a designated location, but the buyer will assume or buyer assumes the cost of transporting the goods. Now, freight on board or free on board, on the other hand, states that the seller will deliver the goods to a designated location, for example, a port, and then the port will become the point of origin. So from the origin, the buyer is liable for the goods. Now, DDP or delivered duty paid, it's just stating that the seller assumes all the risks and costs associated with the transport of the goods up until the buyer receives the items. Now, on the Alibaba website, at an additional cost, you can elect to avail of Alibaba's production monitoring and inspection services. We definitely want to avail this in order to protect ourselves from fraudulent activities and ensure that our stated production lead time will be met. As we know, it has implications to the product launch phase and other phases in our Amazon seller VA career as we are helping out our clients. Now, on the ninth slide, this is the start of the actual simulation on supplier sourcing. As I have stated in my product research presentation, in searching for suppliers, you can typically categorize them or put them under these three buckets. The first one is we have a supplier that can produce exactly our identified item. So they're very similar. Now, the second one is a supplier that produces an item that has variations or minor dissimilarities with the item that we have identified, but they can still modify it based on our specifications. Now, lastly, we have a supplier that produces an item that is somehow dissimilar to our product but has the capability to still accept our customizations. So bear that in mind. It doesn't have to be a supplier that just produces the exact item that you identified in your product research. It can also be a supplier that falls under the two other categories. Um, so on the 10th slide, I chose Alibaba. Then I type the keyword of my identified product in the search bar. Then I ensure that I filter the results by ticking the trade assurance and verified suppliers tick boxes. And then I picked 10 suppliers. Now I collated all of the data pertaining to those suppliers, and then I expanded the template that we are using. And then after collating the data and information that I was able to gather from the store information of the suppliers, I started messaging the 10 suppliers using my customized template. And definitely there were challenges that I encountered. Some suppliers will not answer all of your questions in one go. You still need to reiterate the questions that you have. Then the communication line also broke. So I had to be resourceful and find ways to continue the negotiation process. I realized that I can utilize the mobile app. So I use it and ask the suppliers to just continue the communication by email. So you could also see on the slide the snippets of my communication with the suppliers via email. Now on the 13th slide or page, this is actually the final selection process. So it came down to two suppliers based on my evaluation. I decided to go with Guangzhou Jibei primarily because of the lower price that was quoted for the same MOQ with the other supplier. But it's not just about the price. In addition, this one is a manufacturer as compared to the other one, which is a trading company. So I think that explains the lower price, and it also looks like that they're amenable for better customizations since they are a direct manufacturer. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you for listening.